In Focus on Newsmakers, Hispanic issues and bringing those issues to the airwaves. I'm very pleased to have with us on the program today Hector H. Lopez. He is from the National Hispanic Institute and the El Paso for America radio program. Hector, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Fred. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Good to have you with us. To start off with, tell me a little about the National Hispanic Institute.
Well, certainly the National Hispanic Institute is a national organization, now international nonprofit organization that's been around for about 31 years. I'm actually an alumnus of the organization myself. I began with the organization when I was 14 years of age. And the organization's purpose is to serve the future leadership needs of now the global Latino community. We began with solely the U.S. Latino community, and as time went on, we expanded to over 7 different countries. And so now we're not only within the United States and operating here, but also in Mexico, Puerto Rico, Spain, Argentina, Panama, and the Dominican Republic. And so the organization, in order to serve the future leadership needs of this global Latino community, does a series of things. We annually recruit the top 3,000 high school students and 2,000 collegiate level students every year from over 7 different countries. And once identified and recruited, we will send them off to leadership experiences on the campuses of major colleges and universities. We're currently affiliated with a little over 100 colleges and universities, schools like Villanova University, MIT, NYU, Yale, institutions of that caliber. And that's what we do. We also do significant amount of research. We're a little bit of a think tank. And like I said, we've been around for over 31 years, and we've quietly become now the largest Latino youth organization in the nation. We have about 85,000 alumni worldwide now, because they're all over the place. And about 42,000 of them remain active with the organization to this very day.
Well, tell me about your role, what you do at the Institute.
My role is kind of a neat role. I'm the senior vice president of the National Hispanic Institute. I was recruited to be on the professional side of NHI because I had a lifelong relationship both as a participant and as a volunteer of the organization, but I was recruited to be the Northeast U.S. director of the Institute. Right after I was currently working at that time with Mayor Joe Wardy. I was part of the economic development team there. And
in El Paso.
In El Paso,
Your
Texas,
hometown.
my hometown. And I'm always very proud of it. Anytime I'm always talking to people about El Paso. And Ernesto Nieto, president of NHI and founder, who's known me since I was 14, says, "Hector, aren't you tired a little of politics now?" And I said, "Well, I kind of am frustrated with municipal politics, to tell you the truth." And he's like, "Well, we're going to open up our Northeast U.S. offices, and we're looking for a director. Would you be interested in heading up to the East Coast?" And I accepted. I went off to Villanova University, where we have our Northeast U.S. offices. I lived there for about 7 years, and in that time span, I became the associate VP of the organization, in charge of government, community relations of the organization. Helped expand into New York, D.C., all those areas, and from there is when we aggressively began to expand international. And so from that point, I took on the international expansion responsibilities of the organization, and I made the pitch to base that out of the El Paso Las Cruces area. And the reason for that is because I think there's no better international metroplex in this area. And from this very city, for the last 2.5 years now, we've been conducting our international outreach very quietly, but from here I travel into Puerto Rico, into the Dominican Republic, into Mexico, Panama, and I still am in charge of paying very close attention to the Northeast and being up there about 1 week out of every month. So it keeps me busy, but I love it. I love it.
Absolutely. And of course, folks may have seen you on some of the local television newscasts in your role, talking about many issues for the National Hispanic Institute. Separate from your role at the Institute, you have also started your own radio program in El Paso, the El Paso for America radio program. Tell me about that.
Well, it's kind of neat. The El Paso for America radio program began as really a part of my day-to-day responsibilities. I got invited by Abel Rodriguez over at Intravision Communications to be a guest on one of the talk radio programs here in El Paso. And that led the phone lines to kind of light up. A lot of families, alumni calling in, talking about their experiences with NHI. And Abel then said, Hector, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have you on the air. Would you be able to be a guest host? And I said, well, Abel, I travel a lot, and I don't know if I'd be able to. He's like, we could figure out a way. He's like, could you be a guest host at least for a week or two? And I said, all right. That led to people beginning to talk about it on the internet, somebody recommending set up a Facebook site. That hit about 1,000 fans in 4 weeks that we were on the air. And I've now been on the air in this political format, talk show format, where we're talking about El Paso for America, not in the sense of the city, but if you translate the word, the next step for America. And we're talking about new ideas, the new face of politics in America, the emergence of ideas coming from places like in El Paso or Las Cruces or San Antonio, where we have a high amount of the new face of America, which is the Hispano-Latino community of America today.
And let's talk about the issues that you
big
believe
issues.
are really important.
Well, there's big issues facing this nation, and not only this nation but the world. Some of the numbers out there anticipate the Latino community, the Hispano community of America, becoming the leading demographic of the new majority of this nation in less than 10 years. By the year 2020 to the year 2025, so in 10 to 15 years, the Latino Hispano community is expected to become the leading demographic of the new majority. Of course, that will all be cleared up with some of the new census figures that are coming out. But with that in mind, you have to start thinking about the future of this nation. A lot of people like to talk about Hispano-Latino issues as if though they're somehow separate to mainstream American issues, and that couldn't be further from the truth. We now live in a moment in time where Hispano-Latino issues are American issues, and they're issues that not only affect the Latino-Hispano community, but they affect all Americans. And I'm talking issues like education, looking at the state of Texas or the state of New Mexico and where we rank on education, given the numbers of Latinos and Hispanos in these two states. Raises some concerns. Why does it raise some concerns? Well, why is it that the states that have some of the largest growth of the Latino Hispano population are also lagging behind in our education? Let's fast forward 10, 15 years from now, maybe 20 years from now. What does this mean for our future prospects as a nation if a grand portion of this community that is now being perceived as being part of the new makeup of this new majority is not going to have an education? I think education is a huge issue in this nation, and I think that issues also beginning to deal with how we begin to put to rest the issues that have been pretty much the main centerpiece of Latino affairs in this nation, such as immigration. I mean, I think we need to come to a point in time where we can put these immigration issues to rest. How will we deal with comprehensive immigration reform? How will we deal with questions that the DREAM Act was trying to bring up? I think these are the biggest issues facing the Latino community in the nation as we speak. I mean, we're in a time of transition. I kid around with students when I go visit them. I tell them, you're living in one of the biggest periods of change, shift, and growth that this country and this world has ever seen. And at first they kind of chuckle and they, well, what about World War I or World War II? And they'll begin to make those comparisons. But when we finish our discussion, we'll always finish out talking about the fact that never have we seen this period of growth in the nation, this amount of growth. The Latino community Hispano community is growing by leaps and bounds. If we were to close off the borders, Fred, the Latino Hispano community would still be the #1 growing demographic in the nation. So with these things in mind, huge responsibilities, and I think they lie around the questions of education, our future prospects for our communities, and most importantly, how we begin to put to rest some of the issues that have long been talked about so that we can begin to move on.
And so